Welcome to another episode of the Unquestionably Raw podcast. We've made our way to the Western Conference preview. So tonight we're starting with the Sacramento Kings, previewing their upcoming 2016-2017 season. Joining us again is our special guest, Keith Smith of RealGM.com, in today's Fast Break. Of course, you all know DJ Gonzo Star, Matt, and myself. So, guys, we're going to jump right in. So basically looking at the Kings roster and the depth chart. This season, they decided to bring in players during free agency that have more of a defensive mindset to fit their new coach, Dave Yorger, that came over from Memphis. They added Matt Barnes and Garrett Temple, along with the much scrutinized Ty Lawson to play point guard. So, Keith, I'm going to go to you first. What do you make of their roles this season?
Yeah, I like a lot of what the Kings did just because I think they're going to be a more professional basketball team this year. They were such a mess the last couple of seasons. And obviously last year just had kind of quit on George Karl. They didn't have any interest in playing any sort of defense at all. So getting some guys in who will play defense, guys that are true professionals, I think that's going to help them quite a bit. And I really do like the addition of Aaron Aflalo. I know some people are down on him, but I think for the Kings, because shooting guard has been such a mess of a position for them. Ben McLemore never panned out to be what they thought he was going to be. Nick Stauskas is, obviously wasn't very good, and he's not even there anymore. So they needed someone in there who could just fill that role and do well for them. So I like him. I like Matt Barnes coming in. I like everybody else. I'd like to see what happens when Barnes and Cousins get in their first on-court argument as teammates, because that could be a little interesting. So most of what they did I like, just from a standpoint of getting professionals who know what they're doing and guys who are going to execute what Dave Yeager wants in his system.
Okay. Gonzo, what do you think of getting Matt Barnes, Ty Lawson, and Garrett Temple for the Kings?
I think Matt Barnes, good defensive acquisition. Garrett Temple, always been a good defensive guy at LSU, I think. Aaron Aflalo, I kind of got a question mark beside his name. Can he hold his composure and not take those wild shots like he did in New York? I hope that's not the Aaron Aflalo we're getting. I hope we get more of the Aaron Aflalo from, like, Denver. Ty Lawson, I think that's a great pickup, especially if he can stay off the booze. I think he can be a great point guard on his team. I think he can help run with them. I think that he can. I think he can facilitate. Like I say, I like his speed. I don't know about defense, but that's probably the reason why they got Matt Barnes and Garrett Temple to help with the defense. Yeah, man, if he got his head right and stays out of trouble, I don't know. I'm not making any predictions, but they could be much better than last year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Matt, what's your thoughts?
Well, first, I'm going to shout out Czar because I'm going to use something he said. This has been basically the worst run franchise in professional sports, maybe the last 10 years. I mean, they've been a complete mess. Now, with that said, Matt Barnes, I like good pickup for them. Good defense, can knock down open threes from the corner. He's going to bring a lot of toughness. He's going to really get after it, excuse my French, but we know this guy, he's not a bitch, so he's going to really get after it. Garrett Temple, another kind of similar player, good defense, can hit the open three. And Ty Lawson, I think, is kind of a wild card, because this is it for him, I think. It didn't work in Houston. Indiana was, This is it for him. So if he does not succeed here, he's probably done as far as the NBA goes. Maybe someone would take a flyer on him, but I don't think so at this point. As far as Aaron Aflalo goes, I really can't stand that guy anymore. He was very good in Orlando, borderline all-star. He goes to Denver. He was very good 3-and-D guy. But he goes to New York, and all of a sudden this guy thinks he's, Mr. Create off the dribble. I can just take dumb shots. I don't know where that comes from, and I don't know how that's going to work playing with Big Cuz. Because, I think, and I'm sure we'll get to the what their offense is going to look like under Coach Yorger this year. But, I mean, they, bringing in Barnes, Temple, I think Lawson will work out. They're going to be better, I think, than last year because you have some, the guys like like we've just mentioned. So I think they will be better. But, I mean, if it blows up, though, if Big Cuz gets mad, you just don't know. You know, there's just it could get bad. It could get ugly. You know, but I want to say about Coach Yorger, he kind of reminds me a lot of Mike Malone. And as we all know, that Big Cuz respected him. DeMarcus Cousins really liked Mike Malone. And you know, what was it, 2 years ago? They got off to, what were they, 12-8, 12-9, and he gets fired because Cousins goes down and he's out. So they start losing games. So if Yorger can kind of, you know, if Cousins and Yorger can get along, then this could be a very good basketball team. They could be a borderline playoff team, but you just never know with these guys.
Everything has to gel well for them. I think with Matt Barnes, he can be volatile. Of course, everybody knows that. The big question, Keith, you brought it up first, is what will happen when Cousins and Barnes kind of lock horns, so to speak. You know, because they both can be outspoken, but they both really, really want to win and bring everything they can to the floor each night. The question for me is going to be kind of where those roles are over the course of the season. Ty Lawson, of course, he's going to start at the beginning of the year because Darren Collison's out for 8 games. He's suspended, domestic violence, case basically. With Lawson, this is it. Like you said, Matt, I don't think he gets another chance. He is a very speedy point guard. If he has his head on right, he's going to make a huge difference for that team and really lift that second unit. Garrett Temple is going to be that intangible guy that can do a little bit of everything, defend the 1, the 2, and the 3. He's your defensive stopper. He can knock down the three-point shot now, so that's going to be a plus. And with Matt Barnes, he can play the 3 and the 4. He played under Dave Yorger in Memphis, so that's going to be a plus. Also, Kosta Koufis played under Yorger as well previously, so he knows the system. So he can kind of move over to the 4 next to Cousins if needed. And with Koufis, I would actually look for Koufis to kind of take on that role when they want to go big, and someone like a Omri Caspi or Matt Barnes to take on that stretch 4 role as well in other minutes. And as far as Aaron Aflalo, I think if he can get down in the post up smaller guards, that's going to be his bread and butter. Defend, kind of do the little things, and keep your ego in check. You're not a go-to guy. Cousins gets the ball first. Rudy Gay gets the ball second, and then it kind of goes down the line from there. So, we'll talk about Rudy Gay a little bit more as we move through this episode. But it's really going to come down to those guys, how they're going to fit long term on the season. So that brings us into the second question, and this is actually a 2-part question. So I'm going to go with the first part. We'll get everybody's opinion, and then we'll jump into the second part of it. Basically, with the glut of big men up front, there's going to be a constant fight for minutes. Obviously, we know DeMarcus Cousins is going to get his minutes. But you've got Kosta Koufis, Willie Cauley-Stein, Anthony Tolliver, who's a veteran there. What's going to happen with Skal Labissiere, who they got via Phoenix, the Phoenix trade on draft night, along with Bogdan Bogdanovic, who they really, really love and is a star over in Europe and will come over hopefully next season, along with Giannis Papagiannis, who many feel was a reach at 13 overall this season. So, Keith, how do you see kind of the big men minutes playing out, and then where you see as far as a role for Skal and Papagiannis?
So I think you're going to see Cousins Cousins, obviously, right? He's the biggest name on the team. He's a franchise guy, so he'll start. I think ideally they'd like to see Cauley-Stein start next to him, but they do like the energy he brings off the bench. So there's a chance he may come off the bench with Kosta Koufis starting next to Cousins. They tried that, I think, in the preseason game. I think it was last night's game. That was the lineup they ran with. So we'll see what happens there. Tolliver, questionable. He's probably in the mix for playing time because they also want to make sure that Omri Caspi gets some time as the stretch four. He really excelled in that role last year. I think he, more so than any other player in the league, people sleep on just how good he is. He's also the one guy that Cousins won't give crap to. If you ever notice, he's the one guy because, Omri Caspi's seen some stuff, served in the Israeli army. He's not going to put up with Cousins' nonsense, right? So, I think out of anybody there, he might just lay him out real quick. But so that's the tricky part, right? They want to get them, and then you mentioned the two young guys. I don't think Papagiannis, they have much planned for him to be part of the rotation at all this year. I think he'll spend a lot of time in Reno developing, coming along with his game, very young. And then Scal, I think he may force his way into the lineup with some play. He looked really solid in Summer League, played really well there, so preseason's going to be big for him, prove that he's ready to go. So he may force his way onto the court. What I like to do in my head is reverse their draft pick, and then I think it's okay. If they took Scal higher and Papagiannis later, I almost look at it that way. And then, all right, now it makes a little more sense. So I know it's not how it worked, but that's what I end up doing in my own head to rationalize it.
Absolutely, I totally agree with flip-flopping those.
Hey, you know what, Keith? That's probably what Vladdy and that damn owner are telling themselves right now.
Absolutely. Gonzo, so what do you kind of think of the big men up front? Willie Cauley-Stein, Costa Koufos, Anthony Tolliver, and then the two rookies, Skal Labissiere and Georgios Papagiannis.
He's muted.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna tell you now. I think they should go with possibly, and the same thing Keith said pretty much. I think they should start Cousins and Costa Koufos as your starters. I like the idea of having things the same way, having a little youth coming off the bench, like with the big men like Willie Cauley-Stein, and pair him up possibly with Tolliver coming off the bench because he is a shooter too. Skal, I don't know. I think he's very slim. Like he's kind of skinny. Is he ready for the physicality of the NBA? I don't know. This Yana Papagiannis guy. I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Forgive me, please. I don't know much about him to say, but I mean they do have decent veterans that could play. I mean Tolliver's a decent shooter. You got Costa Koufos, who's good. So, I mean, they have a lot of big men to experiment with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Matt, what's your thoughts?
I think Skal eventually might, if he can make consistent threes, then I think he can force his way in the lineup for some minutes. But for the most part, I think with Skal and Papagiannis, you're looking at a lot of D-League time just to get him some experience. I think that's probably the direction they'll start in. And, of course, I think you'll see Skal come up and down between the two rosters. He might not play a lot of minutes, but I'm sure that's what they'll do with him. As you guys, everybody knows I'm a big Cauley-Stein fan. I just love the guy. I think he brings energy, defense, toughness. He's going to do all the little things. So, but I see why they want to bring him up. I would start him, but I understand why they want to bring him off the bench because Costa Koufos can give you some things. We know what Cousins can do. I like Anthony Tolliver. Good stretch four. But I think it'll be interesting if the bench doesn't do. Maybe if the starters are having some trouble, maybe you go Cauley-Stein to bring a little energy to that group. Because I don't know how much energy Afflalo and some of those guys are going to bring. Rudy Gay, so you may need a guy like Cauley-Stein out there.
Absolutely, I think the best course of action for me is let Cauley-Stein come off the bench for the beginning of the year. As the season progresses, kind of ease him in more to that starting role. You move Koufos at the trade deadline, or you could even slot him into that backup center role because Papagiannis is not playing in an NBA game very much this season. If he's playing, that means that season went disastrous for the Kings, and there must have been either a trade of DeMarcus Cousins or a major injury. Hopefully not. I just had to laugh on draft night when Vladdy kind of went in panic mode, picks Papagiannis, and then tries to sell it to everybody. And in his mind, maybe he does believe that, but he sells it to everybody as Papagiannis is one of the best big men I've seen overseas. And I'm just like,
maybe he was.
This guy was a second-round pick that somehow.
Maybe he really was the second best that he'd seen. But like Keith hit it perfectly. They probably kept telling themselves now, hey, Scal was 13 and Papagiannis, we got him later. That's what they're telling. It's reversed. That's what they're telling everyone.
And Scal, basically, he underachieved last season. 1 year in college. He has to put on weight. He's going to be a power forward more or less right now. He has that stretch ability that he can shoot threes. Mm-hmm. He's going to get D-League time. I think he can sprinkle in some quality minutes here and there. As the season progresses, he'll get more minutes. Mm-hmm. Anthony Tolliver, there is a veteran leadership, kind of guy in the locker room, and then he can sprinkle in some minutes. He's going to give you, tough, hard-nosed, basketball, get a rebound here and there, play some good defense, and also can stretch the floor shooting. And that's kind of what they need, that veteran leadership to kind of counterbalance Matt Barnes when he flips out, mid-game and kind of just goes off out of nowhere. So they'll definitely value Tolliver throughout the season there. And as far as Willie Cauley-Stein, I think that overall I really like his game. I like what he can bring. I like that he can run the floor. I'd like to see him play as many minutes as he can on the floor. But you've also, like we talked about previous, have to sprinkle in Omri Caspi at the 4, Rudy Gay at the 4. You've got to also get Matt Barnes some minutes at the 4. So, basically they're going to want to run up and down the floor. And you can't really do that with a guy like Kosta Koufos, but at the same time, a guy like Willie Cauley-Stein can bring that. Looking at the second part of the question, the backcourt also has some competition. Ben McLemore, Garrett Temple, Darren Collison when he comes back from suspension. You've got Ty Lawson and Aaron Aflalo. So they also drafted Malachi Richardson out of Syracuse with the 22nd pick. So where does he fit into the plans this season, Keith?
I think he's going to be brought on slowly, especially defensively. He's not quite there coming out of the 2-3 zone look in Syracuse. It tends to take their guys a little bit longer to adjust to the NBA and play man-to-man every night. So we'll see what comes with him. But they like his all-around game, like his ball handling ability, that he can make some plays from different spots. You might see some run early on while Collison's out, because Garrett Temple's probably going to get most of his time as the backup point guard behind Lawson, or he might even end up being the starter at that spot. Well, we'll see, depending on which way they want to go until Collison's back. And then I think you're going to lock into Aflalo and probably Temple as the 2 guard, and then you'll have Collison and Lawson. So that just doesn't leave a lot of minutes. McLemore is going to be fighting for minutes on this team, as well as Richardson. So I think, again, kind of like the 2 young bigs, Richardson probably sees some time down in Reno with their D-League team, and will have to work his way up from there, and it'll probably take some kind of injury to pop something free for him, or a trade. And that could always be another option to free up time.
Okay. Gonzo, what are your thoughts on Malachi Richardson out of Syracuse, kind of where he fits in?
I think he might be brought up pretty slowly. I mean, they have a lot of guards. They have Ty Lawson, Ben McLemore, Garrett Temple, Lamar Patterson as well, who I think he came over from Atlanta, Jordan Farmar. So they have a lot of guard depth. I don't think right now that Malachi Richardson is really ready. And like Keith said, he's just coming out of 2-3 zone in Syracuse. And Keith is definitely not lying. Like, Syracuse guys have a hard time translating the man-to-man in the NBA. So I don't think he'll give him much time. I think he'll be brought along slowly.
Okay. Matt, what you think?
I'm going to keep it short and simple. Where he fits in is on the D-League team.
Okay.
I just think because Aflalo's going to play. Collison is going to play. Ty Lawson is going to play. Garrett Temple is going to play. That's 4 guys. McLemore is going to be looking to maybe crack the rotation. So I just don't think there's a lot of time for him. And of course, injuries can happen, trades, like you said. But right now, I think D-League is where it's at for him.
Absolutely, I agree. And I don't think Malachi is quite ready. Defensively is kind of where he's going to need to stand out. Shooting is not necessarily his forte. He's not a great passer distributor, so he's not going to be able to bring that. They need to bring him along slowly. And looking at Ben McLemore, who's going to be ahead of him, McLemore has to have a breakout year to be able to prove something. They've been trying to move him, for a while now. Can't really get a lot of trade value, so to speak. And for McLemore, he said he's confident this season coming in. And to me, the last preseason game showed the same Ben McLemore, not able to knock down shots. He didn't look all that, impressive to me. But it is preseason; things can change as the regular season gets here. But I don't see McLemore even fighting, for more than 12 to 14 minutes a game at this point. Just kind of where the roster is shaken out. So Malachi is going to have to pick up his minutes in the D League. Rolling into the third question. So obviously the Kings hired Dave Yorger, who preaches defensive, concepts first. We know, basically that's the focus. But what's the offense going to look like, Keith?
You're going to see a lot of high-low, especially using the bigs with them. He really made great use of that with Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph. And Gasol is known as a good passer, but he actually helped turn Randolph into a pretty good passer as well. So I think you'll see them work that quite a bit with Cousins, especially as almost a secondary facilitator from the top of the key extension area out to the wing there. You'll see a lot of movement off the ball for their guys, which is good because much like his Memphis teams, they don't have a lot of shooting on this team. So you're going to see a lot of back cuts, a lot of movement, things to generate easy offense. And even though it's dying around most of the league, he'll go to a low post-centric offense at times too, where he'll just dump it in probably repeatedly to Cousins and let him go to work. I wouldn't be surprised if Cousins averages between 25 and 30 points a game this year, just because I think he's going to feed him repeatedly the ball and let him make plays from there. Plus, he's going to give him the freedom to take that free throw line extended jump shot, much like he did with Marc Gasol. So that's going to be his role within this team, and it's just going to be can he keep his temper in check enough to stay on the floor. So it's going to be a very big man-centric offense built around DeMarcus Cousins. Will look a lot like what the Grizzlies look like the last couple of years. So not going to be the most fun team to watch, but generally probably a pretty efficient team.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that they'll scrap the kind of George Karl, let's let DeMarcus jack up some threes more than playing in the low post?
Yeah, I'm not going to say they won't let him ever shoot threes. They might let him step out occasionally, but it's not going to be what George Karl looked like. And down the stretch, I shouldn't even say down the stretch, sounds like from about January on, they didn't even run plays from what they, was said was, it was pretty much just Rondo got out there and ran whatever he wanted to run and that can happen with Rondo as well as the point guard. He's pretty, strong-willed and does what he wants. So I think you're going to see a much more, how do I put this? I don't want to say sophisticated, but systematic approach. Just very, regimented. Do this, do that. Probably a lot of long clock possessions. And, we'll see where they go from there with it. It's, like I said, they're not going to be a very fun team to watch. They're not going to be one you're going to flip over to on League Pass and be like, all right, the Grizzlies. Or, sorry, the Grizzlies. You see, I just did it. You're not going to flip over and be like, there's the Kings. Can't wait. You're going to you're not going to want to necessarily watch them a lot. But I think they'll be more efficient, which is what they ultimately need to be.
We've got our Grizzlies preview coming later this month, so they won't be on League Pass alert either. So you had that statement right. So,
yeah.
But Gonzo, I want to go to you. What do you think about the offense?
Offensively, I think that they will pretty much, like what Keith says, again, have to agree with him because he's making the best points. They're pretty much going to be like the Sacramento Grizzlies. Look, they got like Marc Gasol, Zach Randolph, they got Willie Cauley-Stein, DeMarcus Cousins. You got your defender and Tony Allen and Matt Barnes. You got your, I'm not going to say generic version, but a slightly less version of Mike Conley and against Ty Lawson that can run the point, run the floor. I want Ty Lawson to run a half-court offense like Mike Conley. I think that's something that they need. I think that'll actually kind of bring a little bit of discipline to DeMarcus Cousins by running half-court offense and running a half-court offense. I don't want DeMarcus shooting threes. Just smart for them, especially if they're thinking about making it to the playoffs. Other than that, those are the things that make me say they're going to be kind of like something what the Grizzlies were. I mean, that's really it. I don't know.
So with Lawson, it seems like you kind of like him over Darren Collison, who's probably going to start. But do you think that Lawson kind of has a good enough year to kind of push Collison, for minutes and kind of play maybe later in games?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that, in my opinion, I think Ty Lawson, when his head is on straight, he's a better point guard than Darren Collison, easily.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay. Matt, what's your thoughts on offense?
I think Keith, he pretty much nailed it, but I think, but kind of extended. It's going to be a heavy dose of DeMarcus Cousins. He's going to do a lot for them. Like he said, like a second facilitator, come up to the top of the three-point line, make some plays there. They can drop it down low to him if they need some buckets. And one thing I'd like to see him do, because I think it might work a little bit, I'm interested if we'll see a Darren Collison, Ty Lawson backcourt with Collison playing off the ball a little bit. I think that might be something he could go to, to speed the game up a little bit if they need to. But as far as Lawson and I think historically Collison's been better as a bench player. He's had his best years when he's come off the bench. So I think eventually maybe Ty Lawson does start for this team.
Yeah, I definitely could see it. People kind of forget that Dave Yorger kind of wanted to play more of a up-tempo style at one point for the Grizzlies, and that kind of got scrapped for the so-called grit and grind because of the personnel there.
Yeah,
Randolph wasn't going to run.
No, and this Kings team has some personnel that they can get up and down.
Absolutely, and I think that's going to actually benefit them. They don't have to, be a Warriors team running up and down because they're going to get annihilated doing that. But I think some quicker tempo with guys like Matt Barnes at the 4, Omri Caspi at the 4 can do that. Even Willie Cauley-Stein.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
They have to get Ty Lawson playing at a good rate for those first 8 games. Get him a good, basically rapport with his teammates. Get his confidence back. Because Ty Lawson can play. He's very quick, can make good decisions when his head's on right. So I really hope he turns around this season. And Darren Collison, to me, is better off the bench. He's kind of that scorer that could, get you some good buckets, get some looks for some of the other players as well. And he can defend a little bit. So, that's more of a, kind of decision Dave Yorger is going to have to make as the season goes. A guy that we haven't really talked about much throughout this episode is Rudy Gay. And with Rudy Gay, basically, he said he's going to opt out of his contract at the end of the year, which means they're going to have to move him at some point if they want to get value. I'm a big fan of moving him now. Go ahead and get it over with. Get what you can. That way there's no kind of disruption to the team, anything like that. But if he's not moved, you're going to have to find shots for him. And we all know, there's a Rudy Gay that does well when he gets to a team. And then there's the Rudy Gay that's been there for 2 years that's already worn out his welcome. So he's going to be a big key as well. And, Keith, I want to go back to you just to talk about Rudy Gay specifically. With Rudy, kind of what do you see maybe transpiring? Do you think they wait till the trade deadline to move him? Or do you think this is a fluid thing? If they get something, tomorrow he's gone?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he's on this roster by Christmas. I think it'll be sooner than that. I think they'd like to get it handled as quick as possible. They went into it in the late summer with the approach of, hey, let's get him here. Let's, get him bought into what we're doing here. Get him with coach that wants to be here now and see if we can turn this around. And it obviously didn't. He just doesn't have any interest. The challenge for what I'm hearing around the league is there's just not a lot of interest in him. He's such a high usage player that it has to be the exact right fit for him. There are a lot of people talking about should the Pelicans make a play for him, especially after Drew Holiday and Tyreek Evans are going to miss some time. And from everything I heard, the Pelicans' thoughts were, no, we don't want him taking touches away from Anthony Davis, and that's all he's going to do. he needs the ball to be effective. He just doesn't do much unless he's almost the focal point of your offense. So that's going to be the challenges. It doesn't sound like they've put a huge price tag on him, but they want a valuable asset, and no team around the league is just willing to bail them out, especially when I think teams are thinking they'll get desperate enough to dump him eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Gonzo, do you got any thoughts on Rudy Gay? Should they trade him now, or do you think he's someone that can kind of turn around and be a piece for them, at least for this season?
If I was the Sacramento Kings, I would try to trade him tonight and FedEx him to some city immediately. If you noticed, I've always said this with the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies always got past the first round in the playoffs when Rudy Gay was either injured or he wasn't playing. They got further without him. I think he's kind of a problem to a team, and it's probably because of his shot selection. I've always said that about Rudy Gay. I don't think Rudy Gay is one of those players I think he could be a complimentary player with the right coach and the right teammates around him, but I don't think he's a great leader or a guy you want to count on. I've never seen that. If I was the organization, I would try to trade him and FedEx him tonight to somebody who's going to pick him up immediately.
Matt, trade him?
You got to move him. If he's willing to accept, because essentially he's a guy, if he knew that his role, come and get us 15, 16 points a night, get 8, 9, 10 shots, cool. I think he could fit in somewhere, but he thinks he's a number one guy. So what you do is, you're not going to get anything. Just send him to Brooklyn where he can take 30 shots a game. He'll be happy. He doesn't care about winning. Just send him to Brooklyn. Let him score 25 a game and jack up 30 shots a night. He'll be happy. He's going to lose. He's like, I'll be in a losing situation, but at least I get my FGAs. And he's all about those FGAs.
I think with Sean Marks some disconnection would happen with that phone call. He would get out of that phone call real quick. If I've anything I hear about Rudy Gay being kind of coming to Brooklyn, I'd have to say no way. You're not stunting the development.
It's okay. You wouldn't stunt much development because it's only a 1-year thing. So I don't think you'd stunt much.
Yeah, I've never been a huge Rudy Gay fan.
No.
There was rumors, at one time that Milwaukee was going to go, kind of looking at him, but
oh God,
that would have been awful. Then, basically, I mean, what team really does he fit on? That he can kind of be a piece. I mean, you could look at a team like Washington or something where he might be the second, option, but then you're basically getting into it with Bradley Beal, for touches. I mean, I don't really see kind of looking at teams where he really kind of slots in. And it falls back on, you got to put your ego in check. You've got to come down to the core concept of teams, not yourself. You want to win ball games or do you want to put up stats? That's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So rolling into the next question, Keith, what are the Kings' chances in the Western Conference? Kind of where do you see them falling in the Western Conference this season?
I still probably right around where they've been. I just think the other teams in the West got better. And I don't know. I like what they did this offseason, but I don't think they got enough better to make up a lot of ground. I think you're going to see teams like Minnesota are going to pass them in the standings this year. And enough of the other teams, they didn't come back far enough for the Kings to catch them. The West is still deep. There's still a lot of quality teams out West. There's going to be good teams that miss the playoffs. And for the Kings, I think they're going to probably be right around where they were. And to be honest, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. It allows them to keep their first-round pick, which is protected. This is, I believe, the last year that it's protected before we go to the Chicago Bulls. And then it turns into, I think, a second-round pick. And so, they've managed to somehow play that off, I think, for 5 or 6 straight years now, that they've been a top 10 pick, which is not where you want to be. So the fans there would welcome it. But they also have a little bit of leeway, right? They've got the new stadium opening, the new arena. People are all jazzed and excited about that. You've got a new coach coming in. So I think they've got one more year of just kind of see what they can do before they need to get really serious about making this thing work next year.
Gonzo, what's your thoughts on Western Conference standings for the Kings?
I have them at number 10, looking number 10, right behind OKC.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, what's your thoughts?
It's kind of what Keith said, but I actually think they may finish a little bit lower than last year because I think, we know how, the Rockets, the Mavericks, the Grizzlies, those borderline teams are going to be better than the Kings. And I think Phoenix is better than Sacramento. I think they're healthy. A lot of people think Phoenix is just horrible. No, they're not. They were injured last year. A healthy Phoenix team is going to be a tough team to beat. They're going to be better than Sacramento, especially to get everybody back. You got Bender, you got Mark, you got Chris, you got some pieces there to work with. Booker, Brandon Knight's accepted the backup role, which I think he's going to kill. He'll probably be favorite for 6th man of the year now. He's going to kill second units. So I think Phoenix is better than. So I think Sacramento is going to be down towards the bottom. And you know what that means. If they're losing games, that thing could blow up fast, and they could finish dead last.
Absolutely. I think they still get ahead of the Lakers, but they're going to be in a fight there with the Pelicans. The only reason the Pelicans, I have them low is because of, Tyreek Evans being out, Drew Holiday being out. I like the Pelicans. I really am rooting for Anthony Davis to pull that team to somehow get to the playoffs, but I just don't see how it's possible. So Sacramento, I've got pretty low because I don't think they overtake a team like the Timberwolves. I'm high on the Nuggets this year. So for me, Sacramento, it's going to come down to, just like you said, Matt, when they start losing, are those personalities, DeMarcus Cousins, Matt Barnes, are those guys going to really, be affected by that, of course, and then be kind of volatile in the locker room and, outspoken, I should say, not really as volatile, but and then Ty Lawson, we keep going back to him. Is he going to kind of, be able to push, himself out of kind of a slump? Because if they start losing, you don't want him to kind of get back into substance abuse, problems with alcohol and stuff like that either. So definitely want him to turn it around this season. Keith, give me 3 keys that you think may make or break the Kings this year.
First is, can they play defense at even a passable level? They were so atrocious the last couple of years. It's just, completely unacceptable. So that's going to be the first one. Can they do it? I don't think it's going to be a question of defensive scheme and style. It's just going to be, can the players execute? Do they have the right guys? So that's my first one. Second is, can they shoot it well enough? They just don't have a lot of shooting on this team still. It's still a problem. They added a couple guys who can shoot it fairly well, but they've got to figure that out. And then that third one, I'm going to go back to it, is what happens with Rudy Gay. And one thing on that, what would worry me most is we've seen Aaron Aflalo go into I'm going to get mine mode. We know Rudy Gay lives in that mode. That's 2 guys. Cousins needs touches more than anybody else on this team. They go 3-4 trips in a row where those 2 are playing ping pong between them, and Cousins doesn't touch it, things are going to get ugly. And that's going to be where it's going to go bad. And that's where, is Rudy Gay a better player than Matt Barnes? Probably, all around. But Matt Barnes might be the better fit because he's going to be content to just do the dirty work, float around the perimeter, and wait for the ball. So that's they got to figure that situation out and get Gay out of there, move him off. And at this point, I would almost take whatever you can get for him and just
take a second round pick.
Yeah, addition by subtraction, just read up. Ooh.
Like Gonzo, give me some keys for Sacramento.
First, defense. Are they going to be able to play defense together? At least decent defense. I'm not saying they have to be a great defensive team, but at least be feasible. Second, I'm going to say consistency shooting the ball. Same as Keith. Wow, Keith is really in it tonight. He has all. he honestly is on point. Consistency shooting. My last one is focus. Can DeMarcus Cousins stay focused? Can Darren Collison stay focused and stay out of trouble? Can Ty Lawson stay focused and stay out of trouble? In order for them to be a decent product on the basketball court, you got to have their head together in order for DeMarcus Cousins. We're going to say the star because we know the coach has his head on straight. He did a good job in Memphis, I think. DeMarcus Cousins' head has to be on straight, and Darren Collison, he most definitely, after coming back from suspension, stay out of trouble. Keep your mind on basketball. you don't want to lose your career doing stupid stuff. You know, if you're that emotional to the point you got to put your hands on women, you might not be a good idea. You're in a relationship. You know, it's just, you know, there's going to be plenty of times a woman's going to make you mad. There's no reason to raise your hand. So, you know, you have to keep your focus on basketball and your job, first of all. And again, Matt Barnes, that's what I want to say. Focus. Hey, stop getting all this riffraff on Twitter with Derek Fisher and all this talking about fist fight. Leave that alone. Focus on the game. Ty Lawson, staying on the basketball court and not in court. Look, keep your head focused, you know, because you need when you have a young team like this that's kind of inexperienced, I mean, such as with the Stars or the young guys there with playoff experience, you need every bit of focus you can right now, defense and consistency shooting in order to win.
Okay. Matt, what are some keys for you?
My first two are kind of connected. Role defining. I say that a lot with this group. It's very important. And I think that leads into number two, which is defense. Because if these guys are not focused and they're just a bunch of knuckleheads running around, they're not going to play any defense. And that just blows everything up, and it's just not going to work. And third, shooting. You know, you got to be able to make shots. And they've got some good, you know, Caspy's a good shooter. Aflalo can be a good shooter if he plays the way he played in Denver and in Orlando. You know, Collison's a good shooter. Ty Lawson can make some threes. So I think you've got some pieces there. Scalabisi can be a Tyson, or not Tyson Chandler, but Channing Frye type of player. You know, better defensively, I think, blocking shots. But, you know, those guys can stretch the floor a little bit. McLemore, I mean, they thought this guy was the next Ray Allen, so maybe he can find his shooting touch. Shooting-wise, I mean, that's where I'm going with that. So we'll see. Those are my three.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense with Macklemore. Sorry, everything looks great with his shot.
It does.
He gets good lift. He's straight up and down on it. He's always square to the basket. It doesn't go down. I don't get it. Like, it's not like some of these other guys where you can pick one part that doesn't look right. You know, it's just I haven't been able to figure that one out.
That's actually a good segue, Keith, because he was going to be one of my I got a couple guys I wanted to group together as far as being able to step into roles, because Ben McLemore, he can step into that shooter role. You know, that's perfect for him. You know, get some athletic plays, handle the outside shooting, because, you know, Garrett Temple's not really an outside shooter. Aflalo's not really a knockdown outside shooter. So McLemore can come in and kind of, you know, shoot that three ball. He, you know, like you said, he looks good shooting the ball. It's just, I don't know what it is. And I wouldn't say, you know, confidence, because at the end of the day, you know, he's had every chance to knock it down, and he's looked good here. He's not looked good there. It's just the consistency needed with him. As far as a second key for me is going to be Anthony Tolliver and Garrett Temple taking DeMarcus Cousins under their wing and kind of being that veteran ear, you know, voice in his ear to say, look, you've got to calm it down. You've got to stay focused. You've got to dominate. You're the best big man potentially, you know, if not already in this league. You need to put up 27 and, you know, 14 or 15 a night, and you can dominate. There's no reason why you can't. You know, and I think that'll go a long way, keeping him focused. And the last key is going to be Dave Yorger, just kind of keeping that voice in the locker room, you know, pushing to be that leader and getting the most out of guys. He's going to get great play out of Garrett Temple. He's going to get hustle out of Matt Barnes. It's just extracting what he can out of DeMarcus Cousins, keeping him focused, you know, pulling the best potential out of Ty Lawson, you know, what they can, kind of resurrecting his career. And then Darren Collison, fitting him in, you know, to a clear, defined role, whether it's off the bench or starting throughout the year. Just, you know, kind of keeping that team pumped up, because there's going to be many nights where they look like hot garbage, and then there's nights where they, you know, could shock some people. So just kind of keeping that consistent pattern there. Mm-hmm. So our last question is going to be, give me a bold prediction, Keith, for Sacramento this year.
This is the year that the rest of the league and some of the more casual fans learn how good Omri Caspi is. I think he's going to be in contention for Sixth Man of the Year. I think he's going to have a great season, and I think people are going to realize just how good this guy is. So that way, hopefully, it's not too much of a surprise when he gets north of $10 million a year as a free agent this coming summer.
Nice. Okay. Gonzo, give me a bold prediction.
Bold prediction. I'm going to say the Sacramento Kings are the 8th seed in the West, taking the Memphis Grizzlies spot.
Oh, that is bold.
Well, that's definitely bold. So, okay.
Yeah.
You set the precedent there. So,
Yes.
So, Matt, you got a lot to live up to following that.
Oh, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. The Kings are going to finish dead last.
Wow. Okay.
In the Western Conference. I think it's going to blow up and just explode in everybody's face, and that's it. Dead last.
Wow.
And
okay.
let me add, DeMarcus Cousins, Rudy Gay, McLemore all traded.
Man, you just took.
Damn it! I shouldn't have thrown the second one in there.
No, that's okay.
Shoot.
That's okay.
Damn it,
No,
my
I was
bad,
going to
team.
say I could kind of see a point where Sacramento struggles mightily right before the All-Star break, and then Vlade pulls the trigger on a DeMarcus Cousins trade, get some pieces back. Not really sure where he goes necessarily, but I definitely could see that. And Rudy Gay, like he said, is going to be traded by December 15th. No doubt in my mind that he's gone. McLemore, I think they give him one last shot. I think he finishes the year with Sacramento, but Cousins will get moved before the trade deadline, in my opinion. So that's my bold prediction, so to speak. So that's going to wrap this episode up for tonight. So, Keith, of course, we want to thank you, as always, for coming on. Take just a second to let everybody know where they can find you.
Sure, you can find me on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA, no spaces in that, just Keith Smith NBA. Be picking up the tweeting quite a bit now as games are getting started, just kind of dropping some observations on what I'm seeing as we're watching these preseason games. And then you can find my written work at Real GM for the league as a whole, at Today's Fast Break, and as well as Celtics-related content at Celtics Blog.
Awesome. Gonzo, let the people know where that are listening where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at DJ Gonzo Star.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Matt, let the listeners know where they can find you.
On Twitter at MeekMill1981.
Nice. And anybody that's listening can find me at Petetoal, Petetoal, on Twitter. So just want to let everybody know to check us out on Friday night as we preview the Houston Rockets. We have a special guest, actually two special guests coming on with us. The first one is former Houston Rocket and NBA point guard Moochie Norris. So he's going to join us. Along with him is going to be Kurt Lowe of SpaceCityScoop.com. That's going to kick off at 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. Saturday, we're going to actually have a doubleheader preview show. We've got the LA Clippers at 5 p.m. Eastern, followed by the New Orleans Pelicans season preview at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you want to check us out, you can go to podcasts on iTunes, download, subscribe, like, and comment on the Unquestionably Raw podcast. You can check out all of our previous episodes there, as well as tonight's episode. It should be up in about another hour or so. You can also go to our YouTube page, subscribe there, like the videos, leave some comments for us on what you think the Kings are going to do this season. And with that, we will see you right here on Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern.